Hello, and welcome to the Base, Big and Small Screens. Today we're starting off our very special Halloween look at all of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. We're going to be, of course, starting with the first one, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, that particular movie is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Not just because I'm a big fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, a big fan of Freddy Krueger as a character, as a villain and whatnot, but because it's kind of the quintessential slasher film. Um, I just recently finished rewatching all of them because I haven't seen them in years. So I decided to rewatch them to refamiliarize myself with them. And I got the Blu-ray collector's edition of the seven Nightmare on Elm Street films. Does not include the reboot or Freddy vs. Jason. Uh, Neither of those ones I'm going to be covering here, mostly because I've already covered the reboot previously, and Freddy vs. Jason, I'm going to cover another day, perhaps. However, we're here to talk about the first one, the origin of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I had forgotten when watching this movie, right at the beginning, it shows Freddy making his glove. Right at the very beginning, there's like uh, bits and pieces of metal. He's pounding them, attaching the blade to the fingers, and so on and so forth. Shows him making his glove, and it's a nice little touch because you're not sure what he's doing at first, at least if you've never seen the video before. And then it moves into uh, Tina, the young girl who happens to be there, um, dreaming of him. And of course, she ends up waking up from her dream um, and finding she has slash marks in her nightgown. And her mother blames it on her fingernails. There's an interesting little moment that's kind of indicative of the entire series as a whole when it comes to parents. Because she's got these slash marks in her gown, and her mother says you're either going to have to cut those fingernails or stop dreaming like that, as if she had an active choice as to what she dreamed of. There's uh, a very underlying thread of the parents not really understanding or wanting to understand what the children are going through. So it's kind of neat. Um, we also meet our main character uh, for the entire movie because it's not Tina. Tina is the friend of the main character. Uh, our main character is, of course, none other than Nancy. Good old Nancy Thompson. Uh, Now, Nancy is played by Heather Langenkamp, uh, an actress that I am not ashamed to admit that I had a crush on when I was younger because she is a gorgeous lady and a wonderful actress. Um, Absolutely wonderful. I love her work in this. She has that tenacity, that fire to her, uh, which I really like. Um, so yeah, I thought maybe she might be how do they call it? They call it coded male. They have like a female character that's coded as male, meaning they do things that are more traditionally associated with a male character. Um, but I'm not sure she is. I thought she might be, but I'm not sure she is because there's definitely some definitely some good moments in there with her uh, being just this strong woman character fighting back against good old Fred Krueger. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Nightmare on Elm Street series is all about Freddy Krueger, the character who wears the dirty old hat, uh, striped sweater, red and green, and he's horribly burned, and he's got a glove that has long knives at the end of it that he uses to slash at his victims with. And he comes to them in their dreams. So he kills them in their dreams, they die in real life. Typical supernatural type horror movie. Fair, awesome. But what I like about it is there is an inevitability to the horror that involves with this particular premise, because you can't stay awake long enough. You absolutely can't. Your body, your mind is going to get tired eventually, and you will fall asleep. So there is no escaping him. He is always going to be there waiting when you fall asleep. And that sort of inevitable horror uh, that you can't escape from is not even the boogeyman. It's just the fact you can't stay awake long enough to keep yourself away from the boogeyman that's out there. It is a beautiful, beautiful moment. Um, I quite enjoy it. Robert Englund is, of course, Freddy Krueger in this one, and this particular movie is very much in the vein of the horror. There is that creeping, as I said, that creeping inevitability to the horror. There is the foreboding atmosphere of the town and everything that happened in here, and also there is the fact that our main character, Nancy, uh, isn't quite sure, at least for the beginning, that this stuff's actually happening. That she's not just imagining all this, that she might be going a little crazy. So it's really interesting. There's some good moments in there as well with Nancy's mother being an alcoholic, um, and her boyfriend's parents being very much, very much controlling in a way. Um, and there's, I think, three, three people die in this one. Yeah, there's Tina, there's Nancy's boyfriend Glenn, and Tina's boyfriend. What's his name? I can't remember it now. I can't remember it. Rick, I think, maybe Rick or Nick. Uh, and those three end up dying at Freddy Krueger's hands in in ways that aren't exactly accidental. I mean, they're definitely murder, but one of the staples of the series is that Freddy tends to kill in ways that uh, are more or less easily passed off as accident or suicide. He tends to do this to keep the parents from really twigging in, I think. So there's some interesting bits in this movie. So yeah. But then you also have Glenn's death, who he ends up getting pulled down into his bed, into this hole in his bed, and then a literal fountain of blood comes shooting up and coats the ceiling um, from this big hole in his bed. A literal fountain, like like as if Glenn's body was entirely liquefied, uh, and that's what came out. So I don't know how you could pass that off as being normal. There's other deaths in later series. When I get to those movies, I'll talk about them as well. But enough of them seem to have this accidental quality, or oh, this person fell asleep at the wheel and got mangled up in a car accident, or um, they were sleepwalking and this is what happened. Just this accidental flavor to it that I really kind of like, because it lends a an urgency to the teenage characters, the young characters that are going through all this horror, uh, because they believe they know what's really happening, but to everyone else, it seems like they're overreacting. So I kind of like it. It's a great first movie. Um, Heather Langenkamp, Nancy, she ends up bringing Freddy out of the dream into the real world. She's booby trapped her house, so Freddy kind of gets his butt kicked a bit. She even lights him on fire, and when her father finally comes, they track the fiery footsteps upstairs to where Freddy's killed Nancy's mother, and both Nancy's mother um, sinks down into the bed, which is like an open gateway somewhere, which then comes back to the normal bed with no mother. And after her father leaves, there's a bit of a showdown because Freddy comes up through the bed, and Nancy says that she's taking back all of the power that she gave Freddy, and kind of turns away from him. So when Freddy goes for her, he seems to just disappear and gone into nothingness. And yet, and yet, immediately following that, there's a scene with Nancy's mother being alive again and her friends all being alive again. And she goes and gets in the car with them. It's a red Cadillac. And then the top comes up and it's red and green striped like Freddy's sweater. The windows all roll up and trap them inside and drive off with the kids by themselves. And Nancy's mother gets pulled in through the window of the front door of the house, and the credits are rolling. And it's kind of a bizarre little ending, but I do like it for a movie. It is a great start to the series, and as I said, it's very much rooted in the horror genre. Freddy isn't cracking wise like he does in a lot of the later ones yet. Uh, but we'll get to those. We'll get to those. So, thank you all so much for watching. If you like what I'm doing, don't forget to tap that like button. Also, tap that subscribe button to be notified of when I put new videos up. Usually get at least one video a week, if not more. And throw a comment in the comment section. What do you think about Nightmare on Elm Street movies? Is Freddy your jam, or are you more of a Jason fanboy? Let me know in the comments. And until next time, check out A Nightmare on Elm Street. You might like it. And I'll see you next time.